The purpose of this is just a free-flowing, honest reflection of what this means, especially for the Black community, when we know that we have more Black bodies behind bars in Texas than we do in higher learning, an institution of higher learning.
And the sad reality is that because of food apartheid in these areas, because of a lack of access to health care.
The mental health care issues that Judge Frizzell was talking about, that she
Physical
sees
and
in her
mental
court.
health care, absolutely. The lack of access to information and training with regards to nutrition. You look at the trajectory of many of the children born in poverty, they're not getting, the conversation. Many of them, they're not getting the conversation about the impact of sugar on a child growing up in the brain. You go to the local grocery store. I live in this community, so I know you have about 5 aisles of all kinds of sugary, high fructose corn syrup food that is very cheap and that you can get and you can fill a stomach, but you're not feeding the brain. And it is a travesty how we treat people who live in poverty. And so when we looked at the physical health and mental health conditions, we found that many of our participants, 19, 20, 21, 22, diagnosed with diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety, depression, all kinds of symptoms that many of which are lifestyle induced.
More than 50% of the cases are money-based.
Yes.
People in Highland Park, which is one of the richest areas here in Dallas, you don't see them going into Walmart shoplifting. They don't need to do that. And so many offenses weren't necessarily because someone's hooked on drugs. It's like Brittany said, fast money. Where do I go to get fast money when in 75216 the odds are you're not going to graduate from high school? If you do graduate from high school, what are the odds that you'll be able to go to college, 1, to afford it, or 2, to have the grades to get a scholarship for 4 years? What are the odds if you do go to a 2-year school and get an associate's degree? Where are you going to work?
I am formally incarcerated myself. I did 5 years in an Alabama prison for trafficking marijuana. And because my parents lived in Texas, in order to put my life back together, I moved back here September 6, 2014 to rebuild my life from the ground up with nothing. And what I can tell you is that if it were not for my support system, I would have definitely failed. Because while there is not very much incentive for me to remain free, there isn't equitable housing access, there isn't job access at a livable wage, there is a lot of incentive for me to go back to making fast money. There's a whole lot of people who want to quote unquote put me back on so I can live an underground street life and make a lot of fast money. We have to interrupt that. We have to figure out to interrupt that incentive that drives me back to an underground life, because the society has not invited me back in to be a productive member, an equitable member. It does not allow me any dignity. If the community is not an invitation with our most vulnerable, with our incarcerated, who a lot of us allowed to be put there, then they do not have the necessary support to be successful.
We need to support Ban the Box. Ban the Box is in effect here in the city of Dallas, but not in the county, not in the state, not throughout the country, but it should be.
Tell me what Ban the Box is.
Ban the Box means you cannot even consider a criminal record when you're interviewing me. You have to look at my background, education, experience. How am I interviewing? Do I seem like I would be a good employee? I'd show up sharp. Go through a training program. Maybe I don't have the formal training that I need for this position, but I can learn it. You can sense that from an interview, but so much is impersonal, it's online. So why can't I ban the box so you can have this interaction with me in an interview? I won't even make it to the interview if you don't have ban the box, because you're going to look at me, at my resume, and weed me out because it's something 10 years ago. Now, even something falls off your credit after 7 to 10 years if you foreclosed on a house, if you went into bankruptcy. But no matter how much I show you I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago when I went into the penitentiary or went into the jail system, I can never outlive it.
You know, at the age of 21, 22, I was arrested for attempted criminal trespass and spent the night in the county jail. Was able to make bail, which I know many people cannot. But at the time, frankly, as a young white man who had parents who could afford to help me make bail, I wasn't thinking about what everyone else's experience was like. A couple years later, I made another far more serious mistake and drove under the influence and was arrested and spent a night in jail, and again was able to make bail. And as bad as those mistakes were, and there's nothing that excuses, especially driving under the influence or driving drunk, which is what I did. I really did not face the consequences that so many others, if they did not come from my same background, if they did not look like me, would have faced. I just did not know that. And I think about Brittany in a country where 29 states now have made the use of marijuana legal, that you would spend that amount of time behind bars, that you might face a fine of $150,000. And what really struck me in part about what you said is that we know that white people and brown people and black people all use illegal drugs at the same rate. There's nothing that really distinguishes us, but we know that disproportionately it will be brown and black people who are behind bars serving the jail sentences and doing the time, and then you really make a really strong case then outside, unable to connect to housing, to jobs, to education, to a life with purpose that allows them to contribute back to this country, and perhaps having the choice to go back to what led them to prison in the first place. One of the things that I'm learning in the process of listening and traveling Texas is that there are very different experiences and realities and very different Dallases and Texases and United States of Americas depending on how you were born and who you were born to. At that town hall in Mesquite, we were in that picture line, and a woman came up to me and she said, "I want to know your position on bail reform." I had the means to be able to bail out, to bond out. Others don't. That just means that they stay behind bars. But others will plead to something that they did not do. That is profound to me.
Absolutely.
You will now have that mark on your record. You will now have the consequences of your probation because of the bail situation. Can you describe that?
Let me tell you how that
powerful.
happens. I have clients right now in jail for unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. They say, "I didn't do this. My buddy had the car. I didn't even steal the car. I don't know why they're trying to pin it on me." Well, your buddy said it was you, and he's not going to just admit it was him, but he can't get out of jail because of the bond. So I can go in and argue to the judge, reduce the bond. The judge can reduce it from $15,000 to $1,500. Most bonding companies charge 10%. So $1,500 is $150. Spend $150 and get out, right? Unless you don't have $150.
Right.
So for that $150, he's in jail for another 8 months. We have a trial coming up next month. It's a state jail felony. They're not getting ready to go to trial on that state jail felony. They're going to go on a capital murder or sexual assault or aggravated robbery. And his
Those are
case
the
is going to
priorities.
get reset.
He's going to be at the very bottom of the
That's
list.
absolutely right.
And how long will he be in that county jail?
He'll sit there for another 3 to 4 months, and then they'll say, "Well, we're offering you 12 months. Well, I already sat in here for 12 months. So you can get out today for time served. Okay, wait a minute. I signed right here saying I did it, and I can get out today? Yes, but you said you didn't do it. It will go on your record. Wait, so I can get out today? Because my baby's about to be born Friday. And my mother just died. I want to go to the funeral. So if I sign this paper, I can get out today. Yes, but you'll be on probation. That's even worse than time served, because then I'm on probation for something I didn't do, and later I do more time for it for not having the money or not reporting.
And then
And it's a cycle because I couldn't get out of jail to begin with. So if there's anything that you can do to support, no more cash bails. Why should bail bonds be based on money? The answer is they shouldn't be.
There's a lawsuit against the Dallas County judges right now by basically a group of people who are impoverished, and the fact that their ability to pay is never considered in exchange for their freedom. And these lawsuits have already happened in Harris County, which I'm sure you're aware. Dallas County has been hit, and I know like Tarrant counties and other ones are anticipating the strike. And the reason why it's happening is because people are starting to understand how when Khalif Browder committed suicide because he sat in New York for so long, and what it did to him mentally and the impact it had on his family, people are beginning to understand that being wrongfully incarcerated for your inability to pay is detrimental to your humanity and to the community as a whole.
We take young adults ages 17 to 30, and from 4 zip codes, they are the most impoverished zip codes in the city of Dallas. The average median income for these 4 zip codes together is about $20,000 a year. And so when you think about the fact that the majority of the Dallas County diversion court programs have a fee that go along with them, so you've got to pay a $500 fee, a $1,000 fee, whatever to be able to participate, our court program is free.
And just to make that clear for me and for those who are watching, when you're talking about paying that fee, really what we're talking about is those with means in traditional programs, not yours, but they can pay $500 or $1,000 and may not have to serve time, may be able to go through an alternate program, may ultimately have that expunged from their record, but it's really based on means and fortune and your luck in having those resources. Your program requires no fee. The SCCIP program here requires no fee.
It's free.
Okay.
That's right. It's free. And we and so the participants go through a 9 to 18 month program. We do reserve the right to extend it an additional 6 months in case somebody needs that additional 6 months to complete. But once they finish, their cases are dismissed, and the ADA files for, or the PD files for an immediately files for expunction. And so our goal is to make sure that the participant's life is better when they left the court program than it was when they started. We send them through the first phase. We do mental health assessments and physical health assessments. Many of our participants have not been to the doctor since they were 10, 11, 12 years old, doing like Little League. We added that part of the program once we realized that as we were trying to transform lives and behaviors, we couldn't do it 2 or 3 months down the road because we didn't have a baseline diagnosis for what we were dealing with. So once we figure out the physical health, mental health, and we try to get folks stabilized in the program, then we move into motivational things. And so we expose our participants to, we take them to UNT Dallas. They do a vocational assessment there to figure out, okay, based on your personality type, what kind of field of occupation should you go into? Just taking them to that trip is exposure that many of them have never even had. Didn't even know that there was a university campus just 15 miles down the road. But it broadens their perspective, it broadens their horizons. For many of them, they will tell us, oh, what do you do every day? Sit at home, might smoke about 15 blunts. Why? Because you don't have a vision of more, and there's no one around you that's connecting you to resources to give you more. And so for our participants, many of them, just about 90% of them, go back and get re-enrolled in GED classes because many of them dropped out.
I was going to ask you what the longer term impact is. What do you see after they've graduated from this program? They're going back, getting their GED if they hadn't completed high school.
No, they're in GED in the program.
In the program,
yes.
okay.
Yes. And so we were very excited about the program, excited about expanding. The program started with $0. We were borrowing UA cups from some of the other judges at Dallas County. But we've been very, very excited about what we've been able to feed into folks. And so.
And it's 2 zip codes right now?
It's four zip codes, correct.
Okay.
It's 4 zip codes right now. And that's one of our, that is one of
and
our.
And the funding, sorry to interrupt again, I just want to make sure that the 4 zip codes, the funding comes from?
So in 2015, the Center for Court Innovation, in partnership with the U.S. Bureau of Justice Assistance, Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance, did a grant solicitation, and I wrote a grant, and we received that grant. It was a $200,000 grant for 2 years, so obviously that's very little money. It's seed money. It pretty much paid for services and our case manager. We've put in some more grants right now at the state level to try to get some additional funding, but right now, other than that grant funding, that's all the funding we've got.
And my last question on this program, it seems obvious to me that the $200,000 produces a return. If someone does not go back into the criminal justice system, if someone's completed their GED, if they are able to earn more over their lifetime and therefore contribute back more over their lifetime, whether you measure it in taxes or the business that they're going to start, the jobs they create, the art that they'll produce, whatever they're going to do, that's of great value to me as a taxpayer. I want to pay into that because I will pay less to incarcerate that person going forward.
Things I did want to share is that in the state of Texas, 220,000 young adults will be arrested annually.
220,000 a year?
A year.
Out of a population of 27, 28 million, 220,000.
Of young adults.
And that's just young adults?
That's just young adults.
So let me ask you this question. You may or may not know the answer. If of those 220,000 young people who are arrested in Texas every year, 75% of them will recidivate. Do we know after this program?
What we found is that if we insert these kinds of programs, we can reduce that rate to 10%.
Wow.
65% reduction in recidivism.
It really boils down to recognizing people's humanity.
Come on now.
When we recognize that people are human beings, and we disassociate this ridiculous pathology that has been associated with Black and brown people, and we see them as human beings, then it's not really difficult to fix these issues. If we reconstitute public safety in the context of public health, then not only is everybody well and whole, but our public safety increases, and we have said to the American people who have voted us into office that we care about your life because your life matters.
Thank you.